Well, thank you, Wayne. I very much appreciate that. And after the words from our New Zealand friend, my parliamentary colleague, you're probably thinking, thank goodness we're going to get all the politicians out of the road so we can have a really good conference. And that indeed is what you're doing. But I wanted to start by telling you a little story, which is a little bit off the track from perhaps the normal political speech. It's about a little community called Trundle, which is in my electorate in the very north part of the world, where each and every year they hold an ABBA festival. Now I had a look a bit throughout the room as I walked through here, and I reckon you're all ABBA aficionados. Hands up, how many of you have heard of Trundle? Not many. Excellent. So Trundle is renowned for having the widest main street in Australia, and they need that. They needed it because they used to turn a whole bullock team around. They need it now so they can turn the buses around, because on the first Saturday in May every year, for the past quite a few years, they've held the ABBA Festival, and buses converge on that little community, population 600. It swells to population nearly 7,000 for the ABBA Festival. Now, hands up in the room, who likes ABBA? Now, most of you, all of you, should put your hand up. But you know what? Some of you are embarrassed to admit it, but the fact is you know every single word to every single ABBA song. I know I do. And the thing is, in that particular area, in that particular region, they hold two big festivals. One is the Elvis Festival, which is held on or around January 8, which is Elvis's birthday, in parks, but not everybody dresses up as Elvis. I do. You have to do it. It's sort of when you're the poly, the local member, you have to do it. But everybody dresses up as ABBA to go to the Trundle Festival, held just a few months later, not far from Parks. And the buses converge en masse. So at this year's festival, I was given the task of judging the festival fashions. Now, this is where the best and the brightest and the weirdest and the zaniest fashions come out on the stage, and everybody looks at it and laughs and mocks, but they're just looking as silly as themselves. But I had the onerous job of judging it, along with 7 or 8 wonderfully looking Annas, not Fridas, Annas. So all these blonde women were sitting beside me, and of course I couldn't keep up because there was quite a few categories to this judging, and so there was authenticity and a whole heap of other categories. Anyway, this group came out in the group section, and they were wearing just t-shirts, and I didn't think, well, that looks very authentic. So all the Annas were busy, so I turned to the nearby Frida, and I said to her, could you tell me if that is authentic? And she got quite aghast. She said, oh, well, of course that's authentic. She said, that's off the 1978 album cover, and then proceeded to give me the album cover. And I said, oh, thank you. And she said, well, if you didn't know that, what right do you have of judging this? And I said, well, look, I'm sorry, but anyway, so I continued to judge. And she said, no, she said, I demand to know, why are you judging this? If you don't know that that's the 1978 album cover, she said, you're in no position, you've got no credentials, you've got no authority to actually judge this competition. And I said, I'm a celebrity judge. Oh, celebrity. Oh, she said, are you the local copper? I said, no. She said, are you the local, perhaps the supermarket owner? I said, no. I continued to judge with my fellow Annas, and she said, and mind you, I'm dressed up as Bjorn. You've got to think I'm dressed up as Bjorn. She said, are you the local mayor? I said, no. She said, you must be the local principal. I said, no. She said, well, I demand to know who you are. And I turned to her and I said, well, you know what? Looking rather resplendent, I thought, in my born-again Bjorn outfit, I said, I am the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia. And she said, yes, and you're full of crap too. I said, no, I truly am. And she said, prove it. I pulled a business card out of my jumpsuit and I handed it to her. And she said, you found that? I said, no. I said, no, I am the Deputy Prime Minister. She said, show me another one. And of course, jumpsuits are fairly tight. You can only have one business card at a time. And I didn't have another one. I said, look, I'm sorry. She said, I put it to you that you're a liar. She said, I think I will go over to the local policeman if I can find him. I said, well, good luck with that. I think he's dressed up as Benny. I said, anyway, about half an hour later, I'm up on the stage and I'm actually announcing the winners. And they introduced me as the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia, Bjorn again, Bjorn. And so I went to the microphone and I said, look, this is fantastic. I said, you only have to look out and see the number of buses that have come here, that have drawn people from right throughout this state, right throughout other states for this fantastic ABBA festival. This is all about the money, money, money. And Next year we're going to have another election, and I'm going to ask you all to take a chance on me. You know, and on it went. So anyway, I finished the Festival Fashions Awards, and I started to meander back through the crowd, and this woman came up, and she said, "Oh my goodness," she said, "I do owe you an apology." She said, "I've travelled all the way from Sydney." She said, "I can't believe that the Deputy Prime Minister of Australia would look as silly as you." But she said, "Isn't it fantastic that we live in a nation where the Deputy Prime Minister can dress up as you and be as funny as you?" So anyway, but it is fantastic, and it goes to show that we do have a fantastic country, and that B, when we have these sorts of festivals, when we have this sort of fun, buses are very much integral to making sure that sort of fun, those sorts of festivals can continue. And you know that. I don't need to tell you, because you are key stakeholders in this fabulous industry, that our government, the Liberal Nationals government, wants to make sure that you continue to prosper. And we do that by various means. We do it with better infrastructure. And so this year we had another $24.5 billion tipped into the $75 billion to make sure that we build the very best roads. Not just roads, but the very best roads on which to convey people, whether they're travelling by buses, whether they're travelling by cars, whether they're travelling in trucks, no matter what the case might be. We need better roads so that we can make sure that people get to where they need to go sooner and safer. And that perhaps is one of the very things that I keep harping on about, getting people sooner and safer to their destination of choice, because it is so important. And it really didn't strike so much of a chord to me as when we announced the $800 million of funding for the Bruce Highway upgrade, Cooroy to Curra Section D, near Gympie, the Gympie bypass. And I know a lot of buses use that particular stretch of road. I know a lot of trucks do. I know a lot of cars do. And the fact is there's a all too many number of traffic lights that heavy vehicles have to slow down for, use air brakes for, etc., etc. And worst, it's been a deadly stretch of road. And so when I was at the press conference with Lou O'Brien, my friend and colleague, the federal member for Wide Bay, announcing that particular $800 million commitment, nicely topped up with $200 million from the Queensland state government, for that $1 billion road project, the member for Wide Bay got quite misty-eyed. He actually got quite emotional when we were at that press conference, because he had been a policeman in a previous life. So prior to coming to Parliament, he'd been a highway patrol policeman who'd all too often had to go and do the 3 a.m. death knock, who all too often had to tell loved ones that their other loved ones were not coming home. And that really meant so much to him, the fact that finally, after years of campaigning and after not that long a career in politics, he'd been able to make sure that Canberra had been convinced to fund that duplication of that particular stretch of road. And of course, as you know, there are many, many roads right throughout this wide brown land that we need to have better roads, more funding to ensure that we even reduce the road toll further. Of course, we'd love not to have a road toll, and there is a campaign towards zero in 2050. That seems a long way off. It won't be, but it does seem a long way off when last year 1,227 people died on our roads. And of course, you don't want that, I don't want that, nobody wants that. And you eliminate and you reduce road tolls by better road infrastructure, and better vehicles. And you're doing that. You're keeping up. I certainly saw that this morning when I was driven by Brett to this particular destination in a wonderful state-of-the-art bus. And I know it's going to be auctioned a little later on at this conference. And well done to BIC, and well done to everybody involved in that particular concept. It's great to be here, and I know I've spoken about the infrastructure of our roads. I'd also like to address future technologies, because they are so important. You can see I'm just going all through my notes because I didn't want to give you a really boring to start your conference off. I sometimes think if you actually start a conference up with a bit of a more light-hearted speech, then quite frankly I think the conference runs better, and Michael Apps always tells me that anyway, and as you all know, he's so entertaining. But I wanted to talk about... Just don't tell him I said that. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the new plan that we did last week, my goodness, I'm up to page 11 here and I haven't even got it, but last week we made an announcement for the Office of Future Transport Technologies. Now, you all know that autonomous braking, and you all know that radar component in your buses which enables you to slow down when you've got a vehicle in front of you. And you all know that automation and all the like is coming if it's not already here. Some of those things are already here, already very much installed in your buses. But the future technology is, quite frankly, almost scary. There are many, many challenges facing your industry and facing our government, and certainly the ability to keep the legislation at least up with, if not ahead of, the game. But the fact is, you are facing a period where technology is almost doubling per year from what you previously had. And you know, and I look around the room, and many of you are my age and some even older. The fact is, when we caught our school bus, most of us would have probably stood up. These days, through legislation and through better technology and just better services, better buses, you know, kids don't have to stand up on buses, and the buses are so much better. But the opportunities and the automation and the technology that is on our doorstep is not just frightening, but it presents wonderful, wonderful opportunities for your sector, for your businesses. Businesses, I might add, which are enjoying the benefits of a lower tax rate, and certainly we will continue to drive to make sure that those sorts of bits of legislation, those sorts of abilities to pass on more savings to you are happening through the Parliament. You should be able to keep more of your money, because I know that all the businesses out there, you reinvest in your business. You don't take the holiday that you should. You reinvest in your staff, the very best component of your business. You also reinvest in the buses that you drive. But the fact is, automation and technology enhancements are on the doorstep of each and every one of us, each and every one of you. And so that Office of Future Transport Technologies announcement with quite a significant amount of money, $9.7 million that we've invested towards that particular component, that particular office. I want to hear input from you, from your industry, from your sector, as to what we can do and how we can do it to help you, to help the overall transport sector. So we've announced it. Have a look on the website, on the Transport website. Have a look at my website and see how you can tap into helping your industry even take advantage of the future technologies. Look, thank you very much for coming here to Cairns, to coming to a regional community. And I appreciate that Cairns is a larger regional community than most. It's got a population of around 250,000 people. But you can just see in Cairns, as a microcosm of Australia, how well things are going. Of course, we can always and we must always do better. We must always make sure that sectors such as yours have the ear of government. And you do. I need you to know, I want you to know, you must know that you certainly do. And whether it's through Michael, whether it's through Wayne, whether it's through anybody who ever sends an email or cares to pick up the phone and tell us what you think we should be doing as a government, that doesn't get lost. It doesn't get fall on deaf ears. And certainly some of the concerns that have been expressed lately have been about congestion in capital cities. And we've put $1 billion on the table at the last budget in May to easing up some of that congestion. It goes with building better infrastructure, but there's so much more that we can also do as far as decentralisation and the like. But you people have a role to play with that too. Let us know your concerns, your issues, your thoughts, your ideas. We're willing, we're open to hear them, and we're willing to act on them where possible. So, but thank you for coming to a regional centre. It means a lot to me. I'm the National Party leader. I come from the regions, and I always argue that when the regions are strong, so too is our nation. And certainly you people, by coming here to Cairns, by coming here to North Queensland, are making another region a little bit stronger. So enjoy your conference, enjoy everything that is said and done, and the deliberations, and certainly the decisions that you'll be taking over the next few days will be important for the next year going forward and for your industry. Well done. Congratulations on what you've achieved and what you do for Australia. It means a great deal. Your confederation, your sector is very, very important. Government acknowledges that. I, as the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport and Regional Development, acknowledge that too. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.